The air was thick with the scent of roasted turkey, mashed potatoes, and simmering family tension. Thanksgiving at my sister Clara's house was always a mixed bag, equal parts warmth and chaos. Her two-story colonial in Suburban, Ohio was packed with relatives, the kind of gathering where you're forced to smile through awkward small talk while dodging questions about your love life. I'd shown up as always with a bottle of mid-shelf bourbon and a willingness to keep the peace. But this year, Clara's son, Ethan, had other plans. At 22, Ethan was a walking stereotype of entitlement, a community college dropout with a vape pen permanently glued to his hand and a TikTok account he swore would make him famous. He lounged at the dining table, his hoodie emblazoned with some crypto logo, smirking as he scrolled through his phone. I was sitting across from him, nursing a beer, when he looked up and dropped the bombshell. "You owe me a grand, Uncle Mike," he said, loud enough for the whole room to hear. "For like being your nephew and all." The chatter around the table, cousins arguing over football, my aunt rattling on about her new air fryer, ground to a halt. I blinked, unsure if I'd heard him right. "Excuse me?" "Yeah," Ethan continued, leaning back in his chair like he was auditioning for a reality show. "You've got no kids, no wife, and you're always going on about your fancy job. Figure you owe me for carrying the family name or whatever." From the kitchen, Clara's voice rang out, sharp and unapologetic. "He's not wrong." She didn't even look up from the gravy she was whisking. A few relatives chuckled nervously, but the room felt like it was teetering on a knife's edge. I said nothing, not because I was shocked, though I was, but because I'd learned long ago that arguing with Ethan was like wrestling a pig in mud. You both get dirty and the pig enjoys it. Instead, I took a long sip of my beer, letting the moment pass. But inside, something snapped. I'd spent years bailing Clara and Ethan out, covering rent when she was between jobs, co-signing loans, even paying for Ethan's beat-up Honda when he swore he'd pay me back soon. That $9,400 loan agreement for their new HVAC system. My name was on it, my credit on the line. And now this? Dinner dragged on, all forced smiles and clinking silverware. Ethan didn't bring up the money again, but his smug grin never left. Clara, for her part, acted like nothing had happened, chattering about her latest MLM scheme while passing the cranberry sauce. I nodded along, but my mind was elsewhere. By the time I left, the bourbon bottle was empty, and so was my patience. That night, back at my condo, I sat at my desk with a glass of whiskey and my laptop open. The loan agreement stared back at me from the screen, a digital reminder of every time I'd let Clara and Ethan take me for granted. I'd co-signed it 6 months ago, when Clara called me in tears about their broken air conditioner and how they couldn't afford the repair. Like an idiot, I'd agreed, thinking family helped family. But family didn't demand $1,000 for existing. Family didn't laugh while you footed their bills. I pulled up the lender's website, logged into my account, and found the option to remove my name as co-signer. It wasn't easy. There were forms, a notary, and a late-night email to the bank. But I did it. By 1 a.m., my name was off the loan. Clara and Ethan would have to figure out the $9,400 on their own. I went to bed feeling lighter, like I'd finally shed a weight I'd been carrying for years. The next morning, I woke to the sound of my phone buzzing. It was Clara, texting in all caps. "Where's ETHAN's car?" I frowned, confused, and checked the time. 7:30 a.m. I was about to call her back when I noticed something else. Ethan's Honda, which he always parked on the street outside my condo when he visited, was gone. Not just moved, gone. The spot was empty, the morning sun glinting off the pavement. I didn't have time to process it before there was a knock at my door. Not a polite tap, but a sharp, insistent pounding. My stomach twisted. I'm not a paranoid guy, but I live alone, and unexpected visitors at 8 a.m. aren't usually good news. I grabbed the baseball bat I keep by the coat rack, just in case, and opened the door. Standing there was a man I didn't recognize. He was in his late 30s, stocky, with a shaved head and a leather jacket that looked like it had seen better days. Behind him, parked in my driveway, was a tow truck with Ethan's Honda hooked up to it. The guy held a clipboard, his expression all business. "Michael Reynolds?" he asked, glancing at his paperwork. "Yeah," I said, gripping the bat a little tighter. "Hooray you?" "Name's Tony, I'm with Apex Recovery. Got a repo order for a 2018 Honda Civic, registered to Ethan Daniels. You co-signed the loan, right?" My mind raced. I'd co-signed Ethan's car loan 2 years ago, back when he swore he'd get a job and make payments. He hadn't, of course, and I'd been stuck covering the difference to keep my credit intact. But I hadn't touched that loan last night, only the HVAC one. "I didn't call for a repo," I said. Tony shrugged. Doesn't matter, primary borrower defaulted, missed 3 payments and the lender's done waiting. You're off the hook now, but the car's gone. He handed me a form already filled out. Sign here to acknowledge receipt. I scanned the paper, my head spinning. Ethan's car was being repossessed because he hadn't paid, and somehow my name being tied to his mess had led Tony to my door. I signed, handed the clipboard back, and watched as Tony climbed into his tow truck and drove off, Ethan's Honda bouncing along behind. By noon, my phone was blowing up. Clara's texts were a mix of panic and rage. How could you do this to ETHAN? You know he needs that car. Ethan himself called, leaving a voicemail that was half sobbing, half screaming. You screwed me over, Uncle Mike. You're gonna regret this. I didn't respond. Instead, I poured a coffee and sat on my couch, staring out the window. Part of me felt guilty. Family's supposed to stick together, right? But a bigger part felt free. For years, I'd been their ATM, their safety net, their sucker. Ethan's demand for $1,000 wasn't just a joke. It was a symptom of a deeper rot, one I'd ignored for too long. Clara showed up at my place that afternoon, her face red and puffy from crying. Ethan slunk in behind her, his usual swagger replaced by a sullen scowl. You got his car taken, Clara said, her voice shaking. You know how much he needs it for work. Work, I said, raising an eyebrow. Last I checked, posting vape tricks on TikTok isn't a job. Ethan's face flushed. You're such a... Enough, I cut him off. I didn't repo your car, Ethan. You did that by not paying, and I'm done bailing you out. Both of you? Clara's mouth opened, then closed. For once, she had nothing to say. I laid it out. I'd taken my name off the HVAC loan, too. They'd have to figure out the payments or lose their air conditioning. I wasn't cruel about it, just matter of fact. This wasn't about revenge, it was about boundaries. You're abandoning us, Clara whispered, tears welling up. No, I said, I'm done enabling you. The weeks that followed were quiet. Clara and Ethan didn't call, didn't text. I heard through the family grapevine that they were scrambling to cover the HVAC payments, and Ethan had started driving for Uber with a borrowed car. I didn't gloat. I didn't feel much of anything, really. Just a strange calm, like I'd finally reclaimed a piece of myself. Thanksgiving came and went the next year, and I didn't go to Clara's. Instead, I hosted a small dinner at my place, friends, not family. The table was smaller, the food simpler, but the laughter was real. No one demanded a grand for existing. No one expected me to foot their bills. As I cleared the dishes, my phone buzzed. A text from Clara, *, can we talk? Ethan's sorry, I'm sorry. I stared at it for a long moment, then set the phone down. Maybe we'd talk someday, maybe not. But for the first time in years, I wasn't worried about what came next. I'd drawn my line, and it felt good.